We're back to the Neil Haley Show. I'm with best-selling author Len Sciuto, Hades Crypt. And Len, thanks for stopping by again. You know, when I think about specifically enough what's happening now, I'm not, you are probably the one person out there that was concerned. They thought, oh, we'll just go to war with Iran and it's going to be done in 6 weeks. And it's just, I don't know if everything's turning out the way it should, but maybe you giving us our prognostication will tell us something different.
Well, first of all, good morning, Neil. How you doing? And
Good.
good morning to the listening audience. I hope all is well with all of you. One of the things that you have to remember that I'm concerned about is I spent 36 years in the military. I'm 80 years old, so that's almost half my life. I am concerned about my country. I defended my country for a long time. My youngest son is the third generation of my family to be career military. Something my dad said a long time ago that has always stuck with me. And he said, when Vietnam was on the rise, he said, you have to give something of yourself to keep the good things that you have. And one of the good things is this country and the life that we have in this country. Now, Iran, since 1979, has been going after America. And the information I give you today may raise your concern level. I'm constantly concerned because I know, being a nuclear chemist as well as a retired military officer, I know any kind of nuclear detonation could precipitate a nuclear war, and that nuclear war is the annihilation of the human race, and that's my concern level. So that's my comment to you in the listening audience, Neil. You mentioned Hades Crypt. 18 weeks as a bestseller as a Kindle format. I'm extremely proud, and I'm honored that people are interested in the book. This last week, I received a book review, 5 stars out of 5 stars, that I felt was a phenomenal review of the book. And it was from a gentleman, I don't know him. His name was Bruce Nelson. And if we have time at the end, and if you're interested, I'll read the review.
Absolutely, I'm definitely interested. But let's dive into what we're here for today.
Okay, well let's talk a little bit about Epic Fury. I've made some notes, so I'll follow the notes. There are 2 mission areas in Epic Fury that the United States has publicized, but as a military person that you think about. This country, because of who it is and how they do business, the first mission area is to topple the regime. And in previous podcasts, I talked about chain of command. The second thing is to remove all weapons and weapons material. Those include drones, missiles, mines, nuclear weapons, aircraft, war and cargo ships, patrol boats, and mine layers. To date, that was when I wrote this down, that was a couple of days ago. To date, the U.S. has attacked and destroyed over 3,000 targets. The United States has lost 13 personnel since the beginning of the war. 6 of those was on the KC-135 when it crashed in western Iraq. Let's talk a little bit about the Straits of Hormuz, because that's the big topic for discussion these days. Just the waterway itself, the depth of the water there is between 200 and 650 feet. It's 21 to 24 miles wide, but the shipping lane in that 21 to 24 miles is only 2 miles wide. There are some strait restrictions that's been used by Iran to prevent vessel traffic transiting that area. They've been mining that area. And as I mentioned, many of the mine layers and the ships that are putting, boats and ships that are putting mines in that waterway have been eliminated. But for the folks that don't know, there are 3 different types of mines. There are mines that float on the surface, and those are predominantly contact mines. But in today's technology, there are probably some that can be magnetic, and there are some that can also be acoustical. Then we got the ones that sit on the bottom. Those in the bottom are I'll talk about those definition aspects in a minute. Then you have the ones that are anchored to a chain, and they're in the water column. And those are the ones you see when you go to the movies and you see a war picture with naval vessels and you see a submarine trying to transit into enemy waters in a harbor and that kind of thing. You see them sitting on a chain. Now, the other aspect of this is they're also the ship, those Noran, in addition to using those types of mines, they have, because they don't have mine layers anymore, they're using unmanned skiffs, small boats, and small ships loaded with explosives in addition to those mines to try to block that and prevent ships from transiting. We knew earlier, more than a week ago, that they sent an unmanned tanker loaded with explosives into several ships that were anchored out in the Persian Gulf, and they exploded and caught fire. There are several different types of cargo ships that passed or attempting to pass through the Straits of Hormuz. There are dry cargo ships. Those are things like grain, just goods, clothing, maybe automobiles, that kind of thing. There are container ships. And if you were to think of a railroad car, that is what you see on these ships that are stacked high. Some of these ships are so large that they can stack up to 900 containers on that ship. There are LNG ships and LPG ships. Those are specialized ships. Those cargo tanks are specialized stainless steel. LNG is liquefied natural gas. LPG is liquefied petroleum gas. The difference between the two is that all of the bad stuff, the particles and things, have been taken out of the natural gas, but the LPG has not been filtered like that. There are chemical carriers, and basically those were pretty much, when I was inspecting foreign and American ships, those were Stolt-Nielsen ships, foreign, and their cargo tanks, so they had like 18 cargo tanks, and they carried 18 different types of chemicals on that ship. So when we inspected them, we had a cargo positioning diagram, and of course what we were looking at, and as a chemist what I was looking at, was to ensure that one cargo next to the other wasn't explosive. And Stolt-Nielsen is really good at doing that type of thing. The other types are liquid cargo carriers, and those are things like crude oil, kerosene, light oil, that kind of thing. Most shipping waiting to transit those are crude oil carriers. That's most of the ships out there. These are the ones we typically see entering U.S. ports. The average draft of these ships is about 55 feet. Those are the bigger ones. But most of the waterways in the United States only go down to like 60 feet. Now, I mentioned in a previous podcast that out in that sit out off of the entranceway to harbors or to go up a river to a facility are what I call, or what's known as, VLCC. That's Victor Lima Charlie Charlie phonetically. That stands for Very Large Crude Oil Carrier. These ships cannot enter the usual ports. Why? Because they're gigantic. These ships, when fully loaded, draw about 75 feet. The average length of this ship is over 1,000 feet. Actually, most of them are about 1,080 feet. Their cargo capacity, if you can imagine this, is 2 million barrels of crude oil. That's what they carry. Now, what happens is, because they cannot enter port, smaller cargo ships will come alongside and they'll perform cargo transfer from the larger VLCC into that cargo ship, that tanker. That is called lightering. It's called lightering because when the crude oil is transferred through the cargo transfer system onto the smaller ship, the ship becomes lighter. So it's called lightering. Now, what's interesting, when I had to inspect these ships, South Korea, by the way, has the largest VLCC fleet, and that surprised me. They have 30 ships, which accounts for about 38% of these big tankers. The total number throughout the globe is 88. So there aren't a lot of them, but if you want to get the cargo in the port, these ships can't come in. Wish they could in some ports, because 2 million barrels of oil takes a lot of time to offload. Let's talk a little bit about Karg Island. This island is Iran's import and export shipping facility. It is Iran's, has been identified as Iran's main financial lifeline. 90% of its oil comes from here. 40 to 60% of it flows out of the Middle East for usually global uses throughout countries. Iran, in addition to oil, at that facility also stores mines and weapons. The island, in my opinion, if it's not already, is a primary target for destruction due to Iran blocking the Straits of Hormuz. I will mention this. The price of a barrel of oil today is estimated to be $104 to $120 per barrel. China buys 40% of its oil from Iran and India. And since Epic Fury started, they've been stockpiling the oil. Why? Because that transfer facility on Karg Island was going to be out of commission. The other thing I mentioned in a previous podcast, China, when Iran became part of the four-headed snake, and note that's China, Russia, North Korea, and now Iran, was selling oil to China because they don't have a lot, and they've been buying, excuse me a minute, pardon me, they've been buying oil from Iran, China has, for $15 a barrel. Now, I told you what the price was per barrel, $104 to $120 a barrel. $15 a barrel. Why? Because, like I mentioned earlier, China has been sending Iran missile components, and they've also been sending sodium perchlorate, which is used to make rocket fuel. The other aspect that I was concerned about is because the perchlorate can be shipped in specialized containers that go into a container that goes on a container ship. Because they're specialized, they could be sending nuclear material into Iran to give them the ability to make nuclear weapons. And I'll talk about that nuclear weapon aspects in a few minutes. Now, if you think about World War II, I'll use that as an example. What was the first thing that happened before the Marines landed on an island to take it back in the Pacific? And I'll talk about, as an example, Guadalcanal. The island shoreline was bombarded with rocket fire, with bombs, cannon fire. When Karg Island and shoreline was bombarded by our aircraft, you think about it, that is a precursor for an amphibious landing should one be required. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but to prevent any import or export of oil into Iran and to try to get this regime to change, that could happen. And that's probably a key point here. The Navy, a couple of weeks back, sent in what we call an LHA ship. That ship is an amphibious landing ship. It carries a crew, plus it also can carry up to 2,500 Marines. That's a landing force. And now another one called the Tripoli is en route to the Middle East as well. So that means that there's 5,000 Marines that are going to be in that area. To let you know, a battalion, typical battalion of ground forces, soldiers, is 1,000. So they're going to have 5 battalions of Marines in that area. With Kharg Island destroyed, the 2 top countries globally for the import and export of crude oil will be the United Arab Emirates and the United States. And as you know, this president has brought back oil production in the United States. If you remember, when he was the president before, we were pretty much self-sufficient for the production of crude oil and petroleum products for this country. I think that that's going to happen again because of the way things are supporting the countries that are supporting Iran. I'll put it that way. Let's talk about the Iran nuclear side of things. In June last year, we took out 3 nuclear fuel enrichment facilities. There's a 4th, and that's the one that has a significant amount of nuclear material. And once again, my hypothesis is they got that material, most of it, from China through the use of the perchlorate containers in a container that was not detected. The other aspect that we heard in the news was the Iranians dug a tunnel into one of the facilities that we took out in June, and they've been able to transfer that nuclear material into this 4th facility. If we have not taken that facility out just yet, rest assured, we're going to be doing it. With that nuclear grade material, plus that's in that facility, they estimate that they have somewhere around 2,200 pounds of this heavy water nuclear grade material to be able to create nuclear weapons. We don't take that out, as was mentioned earlier through the media. In 10 days, they could make, with this material, 10 to 11 nuclear bombs. If we just let them sit for 6 weeks, they could have up to 25 nuclear bombs. Since 1947, as you know, Iran has cried death to Israel and death to the United States. They've been working on long-range missiles as well as nuclear weapons. Now, Israel can be reached with their typical short-range missiles. We've seen that. We've seen them hit other countries along the Middle East that's just south of Iran. So my question to you is, who do you think the long-range missiles with nuclear warheads are targeted for? Only one country that's mentioned death to, and that's the United States. We have the ability to take that facility out. And because I worry about the nuclear aspects and what it could escalate to, the elimination of the human race, I firmly believe that the intel, the intelligence data that's being passed from Israel to us is so accurate, so correct, that our government that's working Epic Fury has a 100% confidence in that security information. And that's why I mentioned the 4th facility, the nuclear grade material, et cetera. Now, one of the things I want to mention, and this is personal, for many years, I was not a Democrat and I was not a Republican. And I don't generally talk politics because everyone has their own opinion about politics. But in 2020 to 2024, I personally could, my opinion and what I felt about what was going on in our country in those 4 years, I couldn't be an independent anymore. And the reason I was an independent was because, irregardless of what party the person was affiliated with, I looked at his qualifications. And if he was the best qualified person for the job, that's the person I voted for. It didn't matter whether he was a Democrat or a Republican. His qualifications and how he approached business as a politician on behalf and the benefit for the United States. Now, I'm saying that because I'm going to talk a little about political party confrontations. And I want to do that because of the issues that are going on today. The Democratic Party wanted to impeach Trump for failure to notify Congress about epic fury. And in a previous podcast, I read the federal law to you. He didn't need to get congressional approval. However, I will mention to you that many congressionals knew that it was coming and when it was going to happen. How? Because many of the caucuses and the committees that are in place that deal with security, that deal with intelligence, knew that it was coming. And that because the law, federal law, was legitimate, and he did not have to formally notify Congress. There was no congressional approval on his part. With Epic Fury now up and running, Democrats complained, as you know, about consumer products going up, specifically the price of gasoline. Right now, today, as I talk to you, the price of 1 gallon of regular gasoline is $3.63. Yes, it's up. But the supposition and the prognosis that's been advertised by OPEC is that once this war, and it is a war because there's an armed conflicts, people shooting at each other, will go back down below $3.63 a gallon. I will mention here that at the height of the Biden years and the inflation rate going as high up as 9.4%, and today it's less than 2%, the price of gasoline in this era between 20 and 24, the highest it was $5.16 for a gallon of regular gasoline. Now, with Iran oil mostly shut down and the U.S. industry ramping up, price per gallon will never reach, in my opinion, the Biden era cost. Cost of gasoline and other products will go down, as I said, once Epic Fury is successful. And make no bones about it, Epic Fury will be successful. The Democratic Party will not agree to pass a national budget due to false issues concerning ICE. They refuse to fund Department of Homeland Security. Now, I want to make sure, if you don't mind, just exactly what organizations are under this department. First of all, the United States Coast Guard is the one that I'll mention first, because when I got my degree, I took a commission in the Coast Guard and spent 24 years in that organization after 12 years in the submarines. There are 56,000 people working security issues, and this is the key. Homeland Security is continental security. That's it. 56,000 people working security issues in international waters and around the United States for drug prevention and search and rescue. They're not being paid. TSA, we know what that is, addresses all modes of transportation. That's vehicles, buses, trains, so forth and so on. They, 65,000 people, are not funded. Secret Service. The Secret Service is not being paid. There's 6,500 of those men and women. And not only do they protect the president, they protect past government officials, and they are involved in dignitaries when dignitaries come and visit this country. They're at embassies throughout the globe. So you get the idea of what they are, who they are, and what they do. They are not being paid. And now FEMA. FEMA is a country, is an organization in our country that deals with disasters. Blizzards of power going out, flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes. You get it. 2,500 of those people are not being paid. In Homeland Security, for these organizations, 130,000 employees that work in the area of security to keep us safe, to prevent things that are happening, are no longer being paid to protect and support this country. But the good part about ICE is that they came under a different funding aspect, and the Democratic Party has not been able to block them. Now, why are they trying to get rid of ICE? You have to remember that the Democratic Party in 20 to 24 had open borders. Unvetted people came in here, and I talked about 3,000 ISIS people, and as an estimate, terrorists in this country. And now with Epic Fury, recently, between March 1st through yesterday, we've seen 5 terrorist attacks happen inside the United States, shootings and attacks on synagogues, okay? Those attacks have been performed by as Islamic people. That's the bad part. Now, in addition to that, ICE would be at the voting booths. Now, let's be realistic here. If ICE does not deport these illegal immigrants, and the law that they're trying, the SAFE Act that they want to pass, means only Americans can vote. If ICE were out of the way and not going to be by these voting booths, the Democratic Party would push, and I believe this is my hypothesis and conclusion here, they would try to push illegal immigrants into the voting booths because they're not being checked. They want the government that's on the right side of this wants a photo ID. If you are an American, you want to vote with an ID, you get to vote. If you are not an American and you don't have a photo ID, and even if you have a photo ID and you're not American, you do not get to vote. This is a push by the Democratic Party to come back into power and push the things that we saw that was detrimental to this country and its people between 2020 and 2024. Now, the other aspect of the Democratic Party that I did not like, and I will tell you, again, that's why I became a Republican, and I'm not an ultra-conservative Republican. I'd consider myself a light moderate. In the Biden years, illegal aliens in this country were treated better than Americans. That's not my opinion. That's fact, and I'll prove it. They got free housing. Think about New York City when they were put up in all the hotels. The hotels weren't collecting money from those people in those hotel rooms. They got free medical. What American do you know gets free medical? They got free phones. They got free meals. Think about this. What about Americans that are living on a shoestring right now today? They have problems paying bills. They have problems putting food on the table. Because all these illegal immigrants are here in this country and work for less than the minimum wage, they're having difficulty finding work. Think about the disabled people here in this country that are not that have to pay for medical. Think about the homeless where they don't have a place to live. The best interest of this country and to preserve what we have is to follow the rules of compassion and charity. Yes, we can help illegal immigrants, but don't give them free stuff. Like every American in this country If you want a house and you buy one or you rent one, you have to work for it, and you have to have certain credentials to be able to work. Now, the Democratic complained recently that the military was getting steak and lobster, and I called that, in so many words, an old television show called The Life of Riley. Why were the military getting steak and lobster? I'll give you a prime example that involves myself. In 1970, the submarine I was on, at the height of the Cold War, went into the Black Sea against the Russians. Our mission was to get sonar tapes on Russia's Cashin-class guided missile frigate. We left New London in November 1970. We got home in April of 1971. In the military service, you are what is called, when you're on patrol, silent battle stations. There are other regular times that are other times when you're involved in possible hostile waters, what they call heightened or regular battle stations. But in submarines, because of the nature of the mission, even when it leaves port, after it leaves port, whether it's in the Atlantic, the Pacific, or any place else in the waters of the globe, you have to have and maintain a heightened level of awareness, because we have those submarines not only are for defensive purposes, they're for collecting intelligence, they're for monitoring, they're checking warships from different countries by use of their sonar gear. Now, at that hybrid awareness and being gone on patrol, and I will tell you right now, nuclear submarines, the minimum time that they're out, 90 days. Some of those ships are out for 8 months. So the only part of home on that ship, being at that heightened level all the time, was a meal once in a while, not every day, a steak or lobster. That meal didn't happen often. When it did, because I was there and part of that crew, it meant a lot to us. And the reason it meant a lot to us was because it was considered to be, we were still attached to the United States, I'll put it that way. It helped us because of that aspect. It helped us to remain focused on the mission that we had at hand. It made us resolved to be successful. And now this left-wing party wants to prevent a small piece of home for guys, men and women on ships being deployed, men and women at American bases in foreign lands, men and women in American embassies throughout the globe. And they want to deny that small piece of home, one meal or one meal every so often, that's American? I would use a stronger word, but I'll just say this. It's crap. They have no right to do that. And that gives you a very good idea of who part of the Democratic Party is today. They want to make life miserable for us. Not just the people in the military, but what's happening because we don't have homeland security, what's happening because we've had unvetted borders, what's happening because we have criminal illegal immigrants in this country. They have no support for our current government, which is by and for the people. That's the way it's supposed to be. It is not that way today. That support of the young men and women who are putting their life on the line every day are not in the best interest of the left-wing party. This country now has two problems within its borders. One is the criminal illegal immigrants and the Biden administration letting them into this country. The other one is, in my opinion, a fractured Democratic Party. Half of it is legitimate Democrats. Those are the people that still follow and try to support our country by being Americans and people that support the policies and philosophies of the country, not the Democratic Party. This party that's in the far left, and everything that they've done for the last 8 years, by the way, they're hell bent on destroying the United States from within. So those are the two issues.
Right.
The Democratic, that's no longer the Democratic Party. So try to recall anything that they have supported that was to the benefit of national security, preserving voting rights for American citizens. And finally, they support, in their way of doing business today, the destruction of the country's goal of being the United States as we know it.
Okay. All right. So, Len, let's jump into specifically where we can get your books and stuff as we're wrapping up.
Okay. I will say to you that you can get it at Amazon. You get them at Amazon.com. But the other thing I'll mention is I have a website called jlensciuto.com. You can email me there. The other thing I'll mention is I have a Facebook page. I also have a website. All three books are out. Desperate Countermeasures, 32 chapters into it now. I expect to have it out to the public in July, God willing, and the creek don't rise. So thank you so very much for listening to me today. I didn't get through everything that I wanted to say, but that's okay. You get the idea. I'm for this country. I think and bleed red, white, and blue. And I think all of you should too. Take care and God bless you all.
All right. And go to jlensciuto.com to pick up his books or go to Amazon. Appreciate it, Len. Thanks again.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, audience.
All right. You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.